Hey, welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It's your boy Marvin. We're going to be talking about Candace Owen versus Olivia Bentley. If anyone doesn't know Olivia Bentley, basically she's a Mike cast member who often partakes in brand partnerships and collaborations on Instagram, mostly in luxury fashion or beauty. But most of the time, Liv works as a photographer, is also a co-founder of sexual health wellbeing brand Jomo in London. She's quite active in basically what she does, and she does a lot of things on Instagram as well. So if you want to follow her, you can find her there. But we're going to be talking about Candace Owen and Olivia Bentley, and they're talking about a podcast they were once on a few weeks ago. So they're just clearing in the air. So this is the rematch. So I'll comment as we go because it is a reaction video.
A bit of a background for people that perhaps missed the Whatever clips or people that did not watch it. Essentially, the Whatever podcast, one host named Brian, he sits down with sex workers, and typically he'll have on one or two conservatives, and he sort of just fosters a conversation. I was doing my my documentary tour for Convicting a Murderer. We decided for me to jump onto the podcast, and I didn't really know what to expect going into it. But I know that before the cameras were rolling, you said to me, "What's your agenda?" Which was an interesting question to ask me before we started rolling.
The thing is, the Whatever podcast, it is pretty good, to be honest with you, because Brian's very good at getting people going, asking the right questions, getting people hyped up on the show, especially young people, and it works kind of well, and it is quite an interesting show, and people's debates. Brian is a kind of guy, he don't take any rubbish. He's quite authentic in what he does. He's very real, and I think people like that because they like his honesty, and they've got a brilliant sort of calm way of talking, and it is a very, very interesting show.
Rolling. So why did you ask me that question?
I didn't know what to expect either. So I knew you were there to promote your documentary as well. So I'm like, well, how is this conversation going to go at the table with this many gals? And then we've got Candace coming in to promote something. So how, where will she go with it? How will this go? And it went, and there was a lot of talking, and I'm not one to get in and really interject. I'd rather have a one-on-one, if we're going to get into something more substantive. So it was interesting, to be on the show, and it was fun.
What was your overall takeaway, I guess, of everybody sitting down and the conversations that were had?
I think that it was certainly interesting. I think that when you have this many cooks in the kitchen and somebody saying one thing and somebody saying another, there's a little bit too much spin. And there were times it was hard to keep the subject matter focused. So maybe perhaps I was there to maybe represent a certain focal point on the sex industry, but then somebody else was there and wasn't even a sex worker, and that type of thing. So I thought it was good entertainment. The girls were getting at it, and I think that's what Brian wants. He wants to see these young.
Do you know what? I do like Olivia because you can't really take these shows to heart. Yeah, there are points which could trigger people, and you actually think, "Oh, that's a bit hardcore." I don't like to what she's saying, but there's a big gap, I think, between people between the ages of 20 and then the ages of 30, 35, what you're looking for. Most of the young people who are on Instagram and who have shows or basically whatever they're into, they're going to do it anyway. Sometimes I think you have to get burned before you actually think, I've had enough of that now. I've experienced that. I'm ready to move on with my life and do something out of it. But I think when you say no to youngsters, you shouldn't do it this way. They're going to do it this way until they find out themselves. Although you can give them some kind of, judgment and way forward. Whether they take that or not is entirely up to them. But I think a lot of young people these days, they can get hold of any information fast. They know how to make money quickly. And you've got to respect that sometimes. Even if it's bad, they're going to do it, or is assumed as bad by older people.
Have a go.
Which was interesting because I have done a lot of debates, and typically when I'm headed into a debate, it's a different me, is what I would say. But in this particular conversation, I actually wanted to hear what the girls had to say. Like, I definitely did not have any animosity toward any of them. And as I said on the show, my heart really broke for that 22-year-old young girl saying that, you know, she has slept with upwards of 10 men in one night. I just as a mom, I think that it just sort of destroyed me a bit. And I really did pray for her, even though she didn't ask for it. And you didn't say much during the particular podcast episode, but then you went onto Instagram and you kind of, not attacked me, but you definitely had some choice words, I would say, and said that I was playing to my base.
So you wouldn't do a threesome with your husband?
Absolutely not, because he's my husband.
Did you have to ask that to get the answer?
I mean, there's
Absolutely
married
not.
couples that want to have threesomes, and
you know
some
what
of these
happens?
ladies are bi-curious.
You should jump into those Reddit threads, because every single time that marriage ends in divorce. There's so many Reddit threads.
No, they don't.
And a lot of them
I have
actually do
regulars
really
of
well
over 5
too.
years.
Okay.
And
There's
they're
some that
not-
I think that in my points, unless you're truly open-minded, and it's something that you've both said, hey, let's have the partnership, both male and female said, let's bring another lady, let's bring another man, and it's something that you realise in the start of your relationship that you're into that, that's fine at the end of the day. Because some people, you can't just judge people on what they like to spice up their sex life. That's entirely up to them. But for me personally, in the long run, I don't think it works. There's going to be arguments, and there's going to be one of the partners who think, no, I'm certainly not like this. I'm not getting the attention. I don't think it's meant to be. It could be fun at the time for some people. I do know quite a few people in my lifetime that have actually, not myself, but have been through that, and they said it's ended up not in a good way. So that's my experience of that, but everyone's got their own experiences, and I'd say live your life.
Do you believe atheists can get married?
I think atheists get married because they want a tax break. I don't see the point in an atheist getting married. Why don't you just live with your partner, okay? Whoever it is that you're dating, you're at the stage, you said, I don't know if you live with your boyfriend or whatever it is, why take the next leap? If you're wearing crosses for fun, and
I mean, if you're actually asking a question, I mean, because then I would just be pledging the fact that I would want to be with them forever.
But you can just be with them forever. So what is it that you crave that when you want to get married? What's that next step for you? What does it mean? What's the difference between dating and marriage?
Because it's a commitment.
Is dating not a commitment?
It's a commitment, but it's saying a
But
next
you're
step. It's solidifying it.
Okay, solidifying what? Because if
Solidifying a bond between two people that love each other.
Okay, but what is solidified? If you can then jump into that next commitment, which is the exact same as dating, and you can sleep with other people, and you can put topless photos on the internet, what are you getting married for? Pictures on Instagram to say you did it?
I mean, I'm not sleeping with other people.
What's the difference for you between dating and marriage?
I just told you, it's a bond between two people. You're solidifying that by law. You're literally making it known. I want to be with this person forever. It isn't just a simple breakup.
Which I thought, okay,
If you've got more than enough money coming in each month, feel free to skip this ad. If not,
I thought I was nice to you. I thought that I was nice to everyone that was there. I didn't say anything that was playing to my base. In the same way that you guys were talking about what you believed in and how you live your lives, I was talking about what I believed in and how I lived my life without playing to anybody. So I was a bit surprised by your commentary.
So that is very interesting. I did not know very much about you. I knew of you. I'm a very busy athlete, and then being as it may in my profession, it's all physical work. It's all a lot of interpersonal,
What I think sometimes, like I said, Olivia's busy, Candace's video, sometimes you see a short clip of someone, or maybe on TikTok or Instagram, and you actually think, Jesus, that person's not a nice person. I think Candace Owen, I think sometimes she is a little bit over the top. I think she talks very well for herself. She's very straight talking. She can upset a lot of people with her seriousness as well, because she doesn't back down in something she believes in, which is a very, very good thing. But I think watching a lot of the Candace Owen show, I think that her bark is not as big as what I thought at the end of the day. She can be quite comical at times, but very, very serious and straight talking. And some people, I suppose, want to see her just relax, have a little bit of fun a bit, don't take it too seriously. I'm one of those guys, I'm pretty open-minded, so I look at both sides of things. I look at the way the young person's thinking, and the way the older person's thinking as well. You've got to have some middle ground in this.
We're meeting with a lot of people, so I'm not watching a lot of television and streaming, but I did know of you. So people were giving me a lot of emails and saying, do you think that she's authentic? And I'm like, what do you mean by this? And they, do you think she's playing to her base and to the camera based on your knowledge? Well, let me go get a little background. So I did do some background work, and I would like to discuss some things to that effect. So people in the sex industry that are supportive of my take on it, that watched it, they felt that you too, maybe perhaps you were playing to a particular audience, and your audience is the conservative audience, the Christian audience. So, you may very well be, very convicted authentically for how you feel. But that has been some of the questions posed, like, that you're a professional provocateur, and that you take your take to appease a certain audience and base that you connect with, that really loves you, your fans and supporters. But that's just one segment of society versus like everybody. Do you know what I mean?
I thought that was quite intelligent in what she says, because I think Candace is quite religious, and like I said, the sex workers or the people on Instagram who does it as a business, at the end of the day, I think they probably thought she was a little bit triggered by what she was saying, which I think she was at the end of the day, because I think there were young people in the studio on the show that time, which were firing questions to left, right and centre, and weren't going to back down from her. And like I said, Candace Owens, I think she likes battles, but likes to get her points across. So it could be taken as, God, she's triggered. But I think she sort of it's not going to change her stance on anything, which is fair enough.
Yeah, and some of the comments, they weren't, it was just like offhanded comments where, when I watched your documentary, you did a very good job in terms of being a real investigative journalist, and you did your due diligence, and you went interview after interview, first person, and you laid out your story chronologically. And I'm like, that's really good work, and that's a good job, well done. But the way that the whatever podcast went, there were just these offhanded comments and then personal convictions and opinions. But the offhanded comments to implying that is so and that is true, it really actually creates a false narrative, because none of it was really validated and substantiated. And we are in the game, like we have the the experience, the actual working experience. But also, I bring an education and a background to share with you as well.
Well, it's interesting that you would have me pegged as a professional provocateur in those circumstances, only because if you go back and you watch it, it's very obvious that the sex workers are trying to provoke me. You had the one young girl who was saying, and she was you guys were kind of jumping off of each other, but she was like, what if your husband comes to me and he wants to get pegged? That's trying to be provocative.
Look, this is where the young people is. I did think Candace sort of fired back. It's just the way she is at the end of the day. I think it did trigger her a little bit, but the show is triggered anyway. Brian likes that. It is a good show to watch. You don't want everyone agreeing at the same time, as it gets boring. So when it does go off, it is sort of, shots fired. It is great to see, because it makes a good podcast, not everyone agreeing, and listening to everyone's points of view about what they think about that industry.
It's obvious,
pick, like the most extreme
circumstances. Right? Like that's obviously trying to be provocative and not trying to sincerely have a conversation.
Yeah.
When you say to someone, you're sitting across from somebody who is a conservative and is a Christian, and you say, well, the cross is just cute, you're trying to be provocative. So it was interesting to me that I felt like I was extremely level-headed, and I was responding to their provocative takes, and I did not lose my cool or lose my head. And if you're presenting yourself as somebody who's interested and open to having a dialogue and wanting to present your side, that you would wait until the conversation's over to then make a comment about me online, when I was, as I said, very open and I think very kind to everyone, given the fact that it was pretty obvious that they were trying to provoke me and not the other way around.
Look, they were at the end of the day, but I wouldn't take it too seriously, to be honest with you. It's a show, it's a panel. Yes, there are some serious points where you actually think, are some of these young women and young men doing the right thing on Instagram or selling their bodies as it shows? But the thing is, I look at it, there's enough information out there for them to know whether it's good or bad and how long to stay in the industry. At the end of the day, that's a choice. When you're over 18 or wherever it is, wherever you're living in the world, and you want to do that, I think you know what you're going into. I think you know what you're doing, and I think you know the rewards. Yes, there are a lot of people earning a lot of money. Can it affect you mentally? Yes, it can. It can affect relationships. Yes, these things are out there. We've got enough information online for people to make those decisions. But to say people, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, I think when you tell people they can't do it and they're young, they're likely going to do it anyway. If they make that mistake, that's on them.
Yes and no. I think, you went at her and took a shot at her before she even opened up about that cross thing. And to me, that was just a stupid thing to talk about in the first place. For me, to argue about.
I took a shot at her. We just disagreed on the young woman who was not her, who did the video, who went online and was talking about not having kids.
Yeah.
She was very defensive of that woman, obviously, because she sees herself in that young woman. She's in her 30s. She's not married and she has no kids. And she may have taken personally what my stance on was that on that woman, but I wasn't talking to her. I didn't personalize it and say, you're this or you're that. So I would definitely pause and ask you to rewatch it and really see who's being provocative, because I was definitely interested to learn more about, especially the 22-year-old girl that was sitting across from me, but I didn't really have an interest one way or the other in the girl that I felt was intentionally being provocative and saying that she was wearing a cross to a Christian and saying that it's just cute and
just fashion
pretending that Jesus Christ, which by the way, historically, even if you don't have faith, Jesus Christ did exist. So,
do you know sometimes people do chat rubbish on shows at the end of the day, and some of it is to try and get a reaction. To be honest with you, it's part of the show, it's part of the scenario.
She was saying these things to try to draw a reaction out of me, and I didn't give that to her. Hey guys, if you like this video,
Anyway, that was the end of the video. Let me know your views on Candace Owens, and was Olivia Bentley correct in what she said about Candace Owens, the way she comes across. So it's always an interesting subject when Candace Owens is around. I do think sometimes she's a little bit over the top in what she says. She is very true to her word. She's genuine, kind of genuinely honest most of the time. But I look at it like this. At the end of the day, it's each to his own. Hey, they're both famous. Live your lives and be happy. And thank you for the new subscribers and also the old subscribers.